Hi, my name is Emily, and welcome back to the Sunshine M's podcast. Today is the first day of this month's series, which is about body image. The name of the series is It Was Never About My Body, and how a lot of the reasons why my body the way I did had nothing to do with my body and everything to do with internal and external factors. Today's episode is on control. I had a lot of issues growing up where I felt completely helpless. I'm a military kid, and my dad was deployed when I was pretty young. I learned very early on in my life that feeling helpless was one of my biggest fears. I didn't want to feel out of control. I wanted to be able to control anything in my life because to me, control was more important than appearance. Control made me feel safe, even if it was just temporarily. And when you are young, there's not much that you can control. I, for one, controlled how much effort I put into school, and I controlled how much effort that I would put into sports. Finally, it got to a point where I had nothing left to control, and I still felt the need for stability that I could create. I was in high school and I was doing cheerleading through the school. Sorry, this part is a little hard for me to talk on. I realized that I could control more about my body, and it was the one thing that I fully could control. So I could control how much food I was having. I could control how much I exercised. I could control what my weight was. Growing up in a family that watched The Biggest Loser and America's Next Top Model, there weren't a lot of bodies that looked like mine or my body type. And when there were bodies that looked like mine, they were constantly being judged, ridiculed, and told that they were not okay. I will be talking about comparison in a later episode, but I realized that I could control how others see me by controlling every aspect of my life. I would work out in high school and college upwards of 3 times a day. I would limit what I'm eating, and I would have anxiety when I couldn't control those aspects. If I couldn't choose to work out as often as I wanted, or choose to eat as little as I wanted, I would have immense anxiety about that lack of control. My day would be surrounded around the fact of whether or not my behaviors were good or not. And then my day would be good or not. But it was never about my body. It was about feeling this kind of control in my life for once. The thing about control is, yes, it can give temporary feelings of stability and safety, but what I was doing was not safe. What I was doing was restricting, guilting myself, and really abusing my body and then my mind as well. The sense of control that I had when I was able to dictate how my body looked was awful, but it was addicting. Instead of listening to those around me that were worried about me at the time, it would fuel me to continue. Growing up, I had a bigger body. I've always had a tummy. I've always kind of stuck out like a sore thumb in uniformity sports. It was very easy for me to feel out of place. I had people, including family, shame my body. And I've even had people tell me that if I wanted to look a certain way, I could just work on that. And I internalized that and then I worked on that. But no one showed me how to do it in a healthy way until it was too late. This series it does have a bit of a trigger warning because I did do actions that are still triggering to this day for me. So if you are someone who can get triggered about body image in any aspect, I do recommend you pausing this episode and not continuing it unless you're in a good headspace. I restricted calories before I even knew what calories were. Forced exercise to be a punishment. I made exercise a punishment for not being good enough. So when I was working out upwards of 3 times a day because I did not look like people around me, I had a sense of control when my life felt like it was falling apart. As a military kid, there's not a lot that you can control about where you're going, how long you'll be there, or the people you'll find. It became very clear to me early on that when I did restrict food, it made me feel like I had power to change something that was constantly judged. In the mid to late 2000s, it was normal to be small. It was encouraged to be small. And that has been coming back around as body types are trending. I've had a lot of triggering moments in the past couple years about how we value body types depending on what's trending. But our bodies aren't something that should be trending. Our bodies just are. When I finally looked at my life, sophomore year, I tore my ACL and had to leave cheerleading. It upended my entire world, and I was no longer surrounded by some people who were encouraging bad behaviors. So I did gain some weight, and my perception of my body plummeted. After years of praise for losing the weight, a lot of people didn't realize that the way I lost weight was damaging. It ruined my hormones and my relationship with food. It was all in the dumps. And then once I was alone at college, that need for control creeped back in, and I started to then work out 3 times a day, not eat unless people were forcing me to, and slept all day because I was so tired and exhausted. My body didn't have enough fuel to do basic functions. Then I had an ex-roommate of mine report me to the school. I was so upset. I was really mad that she would betray me like that. But looking back at it, it was really important for me to get help because I would have like a little to-go container of croutons and water and maybe a cookie for 12 hours and then go to the gym. I was constantly thinking that the smaller I was, the more I would be accepted, and I felt out of control. My granny was losing her battle to cancer. I'd moved cross country again, and it felt like the only thing I could control was what I was doing with my body. So I would punish it for not looking like how I wanted it to look. As I have grown up and started just how bad my relationship was, I realized that I needed to learn how to trust myself again. Because part of how this developed was that I felt like I had no control and I needed to focus on something that gave me a sense of control. So I lost trust in myself. I lost trust in my decision making. Because of that, wellness and fitness and health was something that was super triggering to me. So then I didn't do any of it because it felt like when I would, I was neglecting myself and treating myself poorly. And then I finally got to a point where I needed to learn to trust myself again. I needed to learn how to have a healthy relationship with food and with exercise. I needed to have some trust in myself and my decisions and my behaviors. I had to learn how to embrace being adaptable and being out of control. Life doesn't always give you what you needed. And I needed to really sit with myself and realize that even when I was controlling what I was eating and what I was doing, it just gave me a false sense of security. It made me feel like I was powerful, but in reality, my body was nothing close to powerful or strong or healthy or right. It was a hard pill to swallow because it felt so nice. So many people gave me such praise for finally losing the weight that I've had my entire life, and they made me feel like it was right. Even though I knew deep down every time I was doing an action I wasn't supposed to be doing, that it was wrong because I was hiding it all too. I knew it was wrong, but that sense of control and the need for control after lacking it was stronger than me knowing right from wrong. If you're listening to this, I want you to know that none of us are in control. In life, in general, you may feel the need to find something you can control. Don't let it be something like your body. Restricting, guilting, and shaming your body is never going to make you feel whole. It's never going to get you the results you want. And it's not sustainable at all in any way. And I wish I had someone like me when I was younger who embraces the body I have. I wish I had someone in my corner that saw what was happening and put a stop to it sooner. Having these feelings of distrust, guilt, and shame about food and movement, that's still something I face every single day because of this lifestyle choice that I made once and realized that I liked it. I'm constantly repairing my relationship with food and with my soul. So please, if you're hearing this and you've thought about ways that you could control your life, may it be something healthier. Some ways that you can control your life are the people around you, the conversations that you engage in, and the environments that you stay in. You can control your routines, whether it be having a really nice grounding morning routine or a wind down ritual at nighttime. You can control the way that you talk to yourself. Instead of saying like, I'm so behind, you can look at it as a way of, I'm moving at my own pace. When you are quick to judge yourself in your head, you can reframe that and look at it a different way. You can control your boundaries by saying no and not over explaining it, by not bending over backwards to make people feel cared for when it's draining you. You can control your response to the way that people interact with you, even when it's negative. You can control your focus, like focusing on creativity or what's in front of you, what's already working in your life. You can control your standards for how you show up for yourself, for how you keep promises, and you can control your pace by having a healthy way of looking at a journey. Like, I don't need to get everything solved overnight. Control doesn't have to be a bad thing. But you have to know that control isn't everything. My body image and my need for control, it was never about my body, but it felt like my body was the only thing I could control. But control doesn't need to be perfection. Healthy view of control, it isn't about gripping onto something tighter. It's about choosing what actually deserves your energy and letting the rest go by. There are ways to be grounded and ways to take control of your life and your surroundings without it becoming rigid, overwhelming, and absolutely unhealthy. The way that you view your body doesn't have to be a negative thing. Well, if you are willing, I do have a mini series every Tuesday where I read your confessions and your stories, comments, and answer some questions. If you have any about control or body image that you want to get into, or any confession really at all, there is a link in the show notes for a Google form where you can just get things off your chest. I want you to know that you have a safe space here. Next Friday, I will be talking about body image through the lens of validation. I hope at the end of the day, I hope that you took what you needed, left what you didn't. And in the meantime, keep showing up for yourself, because if you won't show up for yourself, I will. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend. I love you. Bye.